Good morning. It's my intention to make these morning moments something that's organic and allowing the moment to select what needs to be expressed. And though sometimes I have intentions or I receive messages, as I walk to the ocean, I try to be still and listen. And in doing so this morning, I was reminded of an experience I had when I was training at the School of Intuition and Healing. I was part of a psychic development program, and in the program you had to be interviewed. And if you had to be interviewed so that the teachers could ascertain whether or not you had psychic potential. And I now know that we all are psychic, but I suppose the potential of it has to do with mindset more than anything else. So along the way, there's 3 levels. There's beginners, advanced, and then there's those that are working professionally. And I was able to move from beginners to advanced from one term to the next. And in the advanced psychic development class, our teacher had us do outside of class something that's called a remote view. So she had selected a day and time, and on our own in our homes we were supposed to meditate. And the destination was a place in Australia called Berlula, or also known as Ayers Rock, which is a red monolith and the world's largest monolith. And it was something that I didn't really know anything about, but when the time came and I opened up and began to meditate, I arrived in Australia and saw an Aboriginal man waiting for me. In the background was Ayers Rock. He took me to the base of the rock and into a cave, and then deeper into the monolith. And inside, what I saw resembled etheric caves or vortexes or portals of sorts. And it was something that I didn't have a reference point for, and I didn't really understand, but I was given a sense that this was almost like birth canals or portal entryways to all of the cosmos. So the time came for our next class, and my classmates began to describe what they saw. And they described seeing my teacher wearing a red and white plaid blouse and a straw hat. They were able to describe what other people looked like. And that the general theme was that they met and they summited the peak and then sat and meditated as a group. So as experience to experience went on, I started becoming increasingly anxious and embarrassed about what I had seen. And there was my recollection is that although my classmates saw other people, they and described what our fellow classmates were wearing, that no one described what I was wearing. And although one person said, "And you were there." So I was the last person to speak, and because I don't lie, even when it might save me, I said what my experience was and just braced myself for that feeling of being thought of as crazy. And my teacher's eyes widened and she smiled and she just nodded her head. And I realized that not only had I done the exercise correctly, I was able to access the truest reality available within that space, although with great ignorance, not fully understanding that with which I saw. And the reason why I'm sharing this now is because it's a stepping stone of self-belief. And it is a cultivator of trust. So trusting oneself, in part because of your integrity or disciplines or a combination of the two. And also a belief in oneself, and ultimately a belief in really all that is. And for this experience and countless other experiences that have followed, my belief system is immense. And I believe things because I know them to be true, because I've experienced them, or I have had epiphanies or other validations. So as we live in this world, in this epic moment in time, and as hopefully each of you begin to step in to yourselves, remembering who you are, reconnecting, as you start to have your own experience, I hope you will believe them, no matter how outrageous or unlikely, no matter whether or not someone else witnesses what you know or see. Uluru, or Ayers Rock, is believed to be the solar plexus of the earth. And although there are different perspectives on what part of the earth is what chakra, the majority of things that you can find will say that at least at some point in time, it was the solar plexus. The solar plexus is the space of personal power of empathy, and it's where other people's emotions can be absorbed. The Aboriginal people believed that the monolith grew out of dreaming, and that it was the birthplace of all things. That within the monolith there were great tunnels, and each tunnel was a birth canal that a great being was responsible for, and that these beings came together and birthed and created all that exists in the world on a natural level. The chakras ascend, and when they ascend, they take on different meaning. So the ascended solar plexus is the center of strength and of courage, in which all fear is dissolved. So it's very interesting to think about what has been happening over the last few years in Australia. And even if we begin first with environmentally, what has happened with all of the fires and the devastating fires that began in, I'm not sure if they began in 2019 into 2020 or at the beginning of 2020. But these fires relentlessly burned, and there were many, many species that were devastated. And still, and yet, fire is transmutation. And when we work with our own chakra system, one of the ways that we transmute all that we've absorbed that doesn't belong to us is by giving it to fire, bringing in the violet flame, other forms of fire, to dissolve and burn away, so that the true power of the energy center can thrive. It is also really the second brain. It is where we sense, and in terms of the chakra system and where they're located in the human body, it is one of our greatest primal sensing centers. So we may not recognize that we are intuitive or psychic, but every single person has awareness of their gut and their gut knowing or gut reaction. And if the Aboriginal people are right and all of creation comes from dreaming, then there's a great need for this energetic center, the birthplace of all creation that evolved from the dream in order to be made manifest physically, becoming a great monolith. And there is a need for us to remember to dream and to clear anything that prevents us from dreaming. And there's dreams in the waking state and in the sleeping state. And I don't know about you, but I rarely dream. My dreams are often disturbed because either I sleep too soundly or I'm doing something else in that time. Many people believe that in the sleep state we are taught or we do acts of service. And that's what I'm referring to. And in the waking state, I know for a fact that I was never told how to dream. In fact, dreams were even foolish or unrealistic. There was a need to be realistic, to be practical. When the reality is, if we cannot dream it, it cannot be created. And today we got to see the sunrise as we move towards the darkest of days until the return of light. We are living in magical times, and you have come here to be part of this.